I'm honored to be here tonight with Michael Gayner, longtime friend and Sangha Vajra brother, and most relevantly, the executive director of Shambhala Mountain Center. And you have hosted us here for a week, so thank you so much, Michael.
It's a pleasure.
So maybe you could tell us something about Shambhala Mountain Center's history. Maybe just going back 40 years. You don't have to go back to primeval times.
Right.
For those who don't know.
Although that is interesting, to go back further than the Shambhala presence on the land. And I'll touch on that in a second. But
sure.
Shambhala Mountain Center has been around in some incarnation connected with our Sangha for a little over 40 years now. But prior to that, the First Nations were here. And you can see some of the indicators on the trees. There's culturally modified trees. And there's a few categories of that. There's one where you can see rectangular strips of bark that have been peeled off. And they were peeled off by people towards the end of the winter. And they'd eat the cambium layer.
They'd eat it?
They'd eat it, or they'd turn it into a powder or chew on it. Wow. Had a lot of minerals. And then also trees where the boughs are bent for a hunting blind. As you learn the land, you learn a lot of things about how to read the place.
Are you the first person to notice this stuff?
Oh, no. No. Okay. There's Dickie, our director of expansion, first introduced me to it, but there's a woman who is an academic who studies this, and she's been coming up here a lot because apparently there's a strong density of these things in this area. So this has been a power spot for millennia, potentially. There's other things, just while I'm on the tree thing. If you see, so those scars are typically above the ground.
And these are pine trees?
Yeah, so the big trees that you see around here. If you see a conical mark that starts above the ground and goes up, it's usually fairly thin and comes up maybe this high, that's a burn scar where the fire came from the other direction, wrapped around, burnt the bark, and then it healed. And it can give you the date of the forestry there. You do a dendrology analysis where you check the rings, and so every tree around there that doesn't have a scar is younger than that. So these scars, it's an interesting way, it's one of the many ways you can start to plug into the land and see, just become more of a kind of I-thou relationship with the land.
And that does connect with the Buddhist manifestation or era here, in that Buddhists are all about connecting with the land very directly.
Absolutely. I think, one of the things that meditation practice and spiritual traditions in general is about a sense of, opening your heart, opening your mind, having a sense of engaged physical presence. And you do that in a lot of different ways. Some of it is just calming the mind so that you can then have the space to see. And the unique teaching of Dharma is that through compassion, through thinking about others, you open that space so that you can perceive. But the goal is not to become a good meditator per se, it's to be a benefit and to have a kind of joyful, open, empathic, touched life. And connecting with nature is a part of that.
Right. So, so from an elephant's point of view, we call it the mindful life because we don't call it the environmentally responsible life or the spiritual life because exactly what you just said, if you open up your heart and you think about compassion, then you naturally connect with your environment and want to be in harmony with it.
Yep. Yeah, it's, was it Robert Thurman said something about Dharma being, or Buddhism being about a kind of very practical realism of how things function. And if you think of the spiritual path as being a way to have this kind of openness and clear, alive, present, sensitive existence, that the path that helps you do that from a heart perspective, if you're using that language, is the same that would help you be more environmentally sensitive, more empathic with your colleagues, all of those kind of things. So I think they all come together at one point, so to speak, around that quality of open and connection.
So on a basic kind of Lou level, maybe, what is Shambhala Mountain Center, for those who don't know?
Shambhala Mountain Center is a I mean, I could give you the mission statement, which is a contemplative.
Yeah.
So our mission statement is to be a contemplative retreat center for the exploration of individual and societal wisdom.
That's a hell of a, what was that? Mission statement?
Yeah.
That's nice.
Thank you.
I want to hear it twice and drink scotch while listening to it.
We can do that later.
All right,
yeah, although I'm more for the wine and chocolate. Yeah.
All right. We have port and wines.
Sweet. Get it. How do we do that? We host a lot of different programs. And some of them are Shambhala programs that our community puts on. Some of them are programs that are focused on yoga or on teachings around relationship as path or music, what have you.
Or health, like you have a cancer program, right?
Yes, we have a program we're very proud of that's called Courageous Women, Fearless Living. That's for cancer survivors. And we've helped develop that with a team of people that are just fantastic, Judy Leaf and Adana Barbieri and others.
And you have college programs, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Chapman program's coming up soon. They're a college that comes here every year. We have high school visits, a lot of different kinds of things.
And you have like senior homes and like group buses up to the stupa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of delightful seeing all these people, different ages, different backgrounds coming up. And typically there's this amazing response when they get to the stupa of, they have some experience. There's something about it that's very dramatic and poignant in some sense.
Yeah. It's almost as if it liberates upon
seeing. Yeah, you could
It's
say that.
Something I just kind of
came up with. Yeah, good line.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, you guys can have it.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. And it's 600 acres?
About that, yeah.
And 2 campuses? Is that correct?
Yeah, it's roughly 600 acres. We're trying to zero in on that. There's a thing called meets and bounds, which is a way of doing, the assessment of how many acres there are and where the boundaries are. And, it's almost like north of the tree over there where they had the calf about 6 months ago. So it's not an exact thing, but we're zeroing in on it.
Yeah. So you're actually trying to get a real number.
We are.
Right.
Yeah.
Instead of just
as real as numbers.
My attitude is like, well, my backyard is.
That's
like
right. My backyard
5
is
acres,
big.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have 2 main campuses. One called Red Feather Conference Center, and that's relatively small. And then we have the big downtown area with our dining hall and sacred studies building. Skyscrapers, condos, timeshares,
cafes.
Yeah.
Pool halls. Sorry.
Had them, yeah. Went into business.
Damn. Cool. So maybe on a personal note, how did you come to have the, incredible, powerful, it's a great honor, but it's also a huge responsibility. How did you come to have this job, if that's what one would call it?
So I came here about 4 years ago. And yeah.
So from Canada?
Quite from Canada, yes. In fact, from Toronto at the time.
Right. Toronto.
Yeah. You
just said that.
Yeah, you did really well.
I've been watching Sherlock a lot, so I'm kind of like, you're from Toronto.
It's that OU diphthong, It gets people. It seems kind of charming, apparently, I'm told. I have a good Canadian joke at the end if you have time.
Anytime.
Right. Do you know how you empty a swimming pool of Canadians in a real emergency, like someone's dumped piranhas in one end and you've got to get everybody out?
Yeah.
You say, please get out of the pool.
That's a Canadian joke.
That's
you just be polite and simple.
That's about as good as it gets, yeah.
That's good. Yeah.
So, where was I? Yes, 4 years ago. Came down to
sort of a Zen joke, too. You could be the same thing.
A little bit.
Except it would be a koan. It would be some weird. Yeah, anyway.
Yep. And I'd had a benefits management company, and for various reasons I decided I wanted to move into nonprofit management. So I looked around and started talking to some people and ended up here as the director of guest services, and then a year later became the chief operating officer. And then right after the High Park fire.
Was it kind of House of Cards style? Like you'd have meetings with people
you wouldn't
and you'd
believe.
be like, this is going to be a big meeting. I'm going from guest services to manager if I can.
That scene in the car where he's talking them into, falling asleep.
Right.
I put so many people to sleep.
Right.
Talking about my life.
Creating enemies out of friends.
Yeah, only it's sort of mirror world, you're trying to friends out of enemies.
Right, the Shambhala version of House of
Cards. Yep. How friendly can we be? Do you really like me?
Yeah. I like that. Yeah.
So then I wrote a letter saying, this is what I can do, and this is what I can't do, and I'd love to become the director here.
So you actually wanted the job?
Yes.
All right. I'm not even kidding. I mean, I think there's a long tradition in the Shambhala community of it. It is a huge honor and it's joyful, but at the same time, it's a real responsibility.
It is. And you know, I think it was really important for me to be clear that I wanted the job. And that I was requesting
That's cool.
the job.
Sort of humble, kind of.
Well, humble, and also it just sets things up right. You know, this is, regardless of how much heart and work you put in, if you're experiencing the path of being in leadership at a place like SMC, it's profound. And you receive so much more in blessing than you could possibly put out.
We just talked about that with Bob of the Stupa, you know?
Yeah.
Bob King, and he was saying, you know, it's not really work, it's more like practice that happens to accomplish something.
That's right. Yeah. And if you set it up in any way that you're doing someone a favor, then you're really poisoning from the very beginning.
It's martyrdom, kind of.
Martyrdom or self-aggrandizement or something like that. You know, this is a privilege and an honor and a profound experience. And I'm really, really grateful for this. And that's my starting point, and that's where I came from.
So, I guess people coming up perhaps for the first time, they can do a weekend program, they can do a...
They could just do a visit, just a day visit, come up and see the stupa, do a hike, have a lunch, not have a lunch.
Right. Great food, by the way.
Thank you.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And everyone out here is also saying great food, which is more meaningful because...
Heads are nodding. Excellent.
Because I coat everything I eat in sriracha. So much of it, you know.
It's not really about the taste.
I don't really actually know
texture.
What it tastes like, but it's been good.
Yeah. Crunchy's crunchy.
Yeah. So you, in the winter you have 50 staff, in the summer you have 100 or so, and you could have programs of 500 in
500 stretching it.
Okay.
We'd rarely, I think our biggest program this summer will probably be something in the range of 300.
But it becomes like a tent city, right?
Yeah, so we have some tent living areas,
yeah.
And then we have some big tents that we call shrine tents,
right.
Where some of the biggest programs
are held. They're like big
held.
wedding tents, kind of.
Bigger than big.
Right.
Voluminous, huge.
And the tent cities aren't like camping. They're, you know, you can stand and walk around. They're a uniform kind of tent.
You can have a life.
You can have a life, and
yeah.
You can conceive some lives, probably.
In fact, weren't you conceived here at Shambhala Mountain Center?
I was conceived at DKD, but pretty much the
close.
same thing.
Kissing cousins, so to speak. Yeah.
I'm sure they tried to conceive me here.
Yes, yes,
Anyway.
yes. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, sorry, Mom.
So you know, the tent, just another aspect of living at Shambhala Mountain Center is the presence of nature to us.
Yeah.
And last year we'd just gotten the tent up with about a week to spare before our first major program coming in to use it. And we had this windstorm and the tent ripped in half. This is the big shrine tent out there. So we had to take it down, buy a new one, put it up.
But I'm sure like 500-foot tents are pretty cheap.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. People are trying to give them away.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Just run down to REI.
Pretty much, and then you've got a guarantee that's awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're a member.
Yep.
Although we encourage people to support your local, you know, Army surplus store or whatever, what have you. And then people can do all kinds of different programs if they come. We mentioned some of those. And then
people can also do individual retreats. You can just come up here on a getaway retreat and renewal and design your own thing. You could, you know, hike, you could do yoga, you could practice places, do photography, whatever it is that you're wanting to do. So it has this capacity to take people, you know, however they want to be here, as long as they're engaging in some kind of contemplative path, and stay for as long as they want.
And is there anything else for people thinking about coming up? Just basic questions.
I would just like to know, like, what is it that people say when they walk away from the experience? You know, like, what are some personal anecdotes maybe from guests?
So there's always a range. You know, I think a lot of times people feel a sense of gratitude for the space. The space is very powerful, and if you come here with the mind to appreciate the space, then interesting things can happen. Well, and the energy of the land is one that kind of invites a sense of looking up and feeling big sky, feeling the energy of the space. So there's a lot of things that kind of accent the experience of the space, and then there can be, I could go on for a while about this, but I think space is one of the things that people appreciate, and some sense of slowing down, and as I'm sure you've all experienced, not having a lot of internet bandwidth to distract yourself with.
Yeah, and you know, about the highlights I remember are like thunder showers in the afternoon, or hail storms, or the stars at night, which we got to see last night. I mean, Boulder, which isn't the biggest city, you can barely see Orion's belt, and here it's like, you know, 18 different layers of stars.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really gorgeous. At night, it's kind of amazing. We still have to put some work into our light pollution. And we're working on that, but it's, you know, it's just kind of astounding when you see the Milky Way splashed out.
Yeah. So any, you know, for the 5-year plan kind of thing, you know, environmental initiatives, or I know you've done a lot of sort of eco-landscaping stuff in the past, or, you know, development or new programs. What's ahead for Shambhala?
You know, I think one of the most important things, if we're talking about the development of Shambhala Mountain Center, is to understand that it's quite an intricate situation. And you can't separate out one part of the whole without it coming up and slapping in the face sooner or later. So we're very consciously taking careful steps to coordinate the development of a sound, sane, healthy community with the same about a business plan. Having a business plan that's clear, straightforward, communicable, and is done in steps with benchmarks that are reportable, that kind of thing. So a very transparent process for all of this.
Sounds like the week we just had.
Sounds a little familiar, right?
We just had our first staff retreat and strategy session, thanks to you all.
You're very welcome.
Yeah.
So we basically have 6 revenue streams. And the 6th one is our newest one, our online work. And we knocked out of the park last fall.
Yeah.
You know, we had thought if we break even, that's awesome.
Yeah.
If we made 15,000, that would be fantastic.
Right.
And we netted probably around 55,000 or so.
Nice.
So
and for a first go.
For a first go.
Amazing. Yeah, we partnered and supported you all.
You did, yes, it was very much appreciated. So, you know, but we started from a place of generosity. And so this is that, this is that integration piece of how do you build community that's meaningful so that when people leave, rather than being exhausted, they're shiny, you know, and ready to be of benefit and have the tools to be able to do that. How do we create that? And how do we create a business plan that will sustain us and also be in keeping with the teaching? So for me, this is a beautiful articulation of it, that we started from the point of generosity. And you give away all of this online content. We put in a ton of content and said, for 2 days, you can watch it for free. And then at the end of 2 days, if you want to download it, you can download the whole thing and some extra stuff for $100. And that's, I don't know, around 40 different downloads. And so we thought it was a pretty good deal. And the response we got was really, really interesting. Hundreds of responses from all over the world of people saying, thank you so much for making it free. You know, I live in Peru in the mountains and I just can't afford it. Or someone from Tel Aviv or from Tehran saying, I can never access these teachers. You know, so there's an enormous amount of gratitude.
And the teachers were amazing. Who were some of those?
Teachers were fantastic, yeah. Punlap Rinpoche, you know, some of our acharyas, Richard Riok, senior teachers, yeah. There was a huge range. I recommend people go to the website and take a look. And
so that's still available?
Still available.
To download or to watch?
Absolutely.
And some of the teachers have been here over the year. I was like, you know, I'm sure you as well. I was an attendant to Pema Chodron over a summer with one of the seminaries, and Dalai Lama and Sting and all these, you know, amazing, Allen Ginsberg over the years. A lot of amazing people have taught or been here. And
Allen Ginsberg has a memorial here.
That's right.
Yeah, up behind Mark Point.
Right.
He was a very close student of the founder, the Vijayadhara Trungpa Rinpoche, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. There's this very sweet little spot up in the mountains.
That's right. Good reminder. We'll go see it.
Cool.
Well, Michael, Mr. Gayner, thank you again.
Waylon, Mr.
Long-time friend.
A pleasure.
Thanks for your generosity.
You're very, very welcome.
Yeah. Alrighty. What are you doing right at the end there? Is that a lungta thing, or are you just having a moment of space?
I do a thing with energy.
Yeah.
And then
like
kind of settle it. And
almost like lungta.
yeah. Yeah. Part of it is just aligning the body right.
Yeah. We do that, but we don't have that moment of space right at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of the point in some sense, because you bow and you're doing a yoga where first you're taking your seat, then you're kind of offering, expressing gratitude, then you're taking your seat, having given and arising in the confidence. And then the idea is you taste that mind, you take a moment to taste that mind. And that's the fruitional part.
Right. That's like the 15 seconds we'll use. Right at the end.
There we go.